precast was because of our limited building season.
Sorry, I forgot.
Pardon me.
Go ahead. My bad.
No. So yeah, the reason I got into precast was because of our limited building season here in Canada. I'm in North Central Alberta, where we get winter for 13 months a year. So it's it can be pretty chilly up here. Of course, that's an exaggeration, but our build season is about 8 months, 9 months on the high end. And then we're down for 4 months. So that limits our ability to compete and be attractive to clients. So the Divita block is a tab-in block that fits into and retrofits into conventional framework. So we're using what's already been established in construction industry. So we're not reinventing the wheel. We're adopting into, you know, what we are familiar with, right? So that helps streamline permits, code validations, builders' access to the material. As maybe some of you know, there's a lot of details to formulating hempcrete properly and installing it properly. So being able to take that guesswork out of things for contractors that are looking into the green markets and green industry, and being able to facilitate those needs and fit into that framework that's already existing. So using conventional carpenters, construction methods, framing methods, and leaning on the masonry community for installations. So that's where I'm at right now. We are decentralizing our platform. So I'm the sole producer in Canada right now. We've got an affiliate signed up out of California that's producing on the state side. And he's also got market access for raw material, and he is validating his binder mix through ASTM standards. So we're hoping to very quickly here have validation across the board.
Awesome. Are there any questions? I've got a couple questions about specs. We kind of touched on this when we did our interview last week, but for somebody that's processing and looking to feed into blocks, right, or what you're looking for as far as materials, can you speak to what are you seeing in the industry and what do you need from the industry so we can work on bridging that gap?
I think having some type of universally adopted grading system, we need to move towards that. There's a lot of different marketable commodities in the hemp plant, and a lot of different end users using a variety of different materials. So my needs on a cast in place are different than my needs for block production, which are different than, say, Cameron McIntosh's needs for spray application. So, you know, having a grading system that we can say, hey, I need a number 2 or a number 2B or whatever it is that we establish. I think moving forward, that's going to help with that raw material supply chain. It's really difficult to go to market with anything unless we have some consistency in raw material. That's something that I struggle with.
Can you talk to me about what is the size for a block compared to a spray? You know, a spray, a quarter inch compared to what are we looking at?
So I don't have, Cameron would be the one to kind of validate that as far as the spray goes. I don't have a lot of experience, but I do have a very general, I guess better than a general understanding of the process. But you're looking at typically a finer shiv size, length for the spray nozzles, because that can clog up through his processes. In the mixers for both the blocks and cast in place, we're looking for a low fiber content, so very minimal bast fiber, which can be an issue for mixing. So I'm looking at less than 5% bast fiber in the herd. I'm also looking for something very clean, so no seed. And the particulate size, looking at a range of about 3/8 of an inch to 3/4 of an inch, typically. Now, we have it graded here in Canada, Alberta, Canada. We have what they call a medium grade herd and then a fine herd. And I'm using both of those in my mix. So at about a 50-50, depending on, you know, the size of the biomass that I get. So, but we are seeing, I mean, it's natural plant. It grows different in fields. It grows different, you know, farmer to farmer, year to year. We're going to have a slight variation that we got to accept within the industry. But yeah, those are kind of what I'm looking for in cast in place and for blocks is that 3/8 to 3/4 inch kind of blend. Really don't like anything to see too much over an inch, but I have used stuff that's as hairy as 2 inches. So you can get away with, there's a lot more room for error with cast in place than when you're looking at having a uniform and consistent material like a block.
Are you seeing that the fiber itself or the quality of the fiber from field really impacts the end use? And is decortication or different decortication, facilities really impacting your quality of product? Can you speak to that a little bit, so that especially as people are looking to bring processing on board, what should they really be focusing on?
Yeah, big time. So we quite a variation depending on the method of decortication. Some people are using hammer mills. Again, depending on how that's done and how it's screened, it's definitely a viable option. Decortication, there's options depending on where you are in the world. There's people that have been established in Europe for quite some time. Australia has been producing processors. The US is doing some stuff now. There's mobile decorticators. There's 1 ton an hour, and I've seen as high as 4 tons myself. I've heard of the elusive unicorn where there's one guy doing 16 tons an hour of decorticator. Haven't seen that myself to verify it, but volume is a big thing. Depends on what processors are, what their primary commodity is. Typically, what I found in the industry is the bass fiber has a higher value per ton. So that's typically what they're trying to extract from the plant, depending on market capture and sales. The herd would be, in most cases, a byproduct of that high value fiber. But it, again, depends on what that main commodity is. Every processor is going to be processing for a different commodity and have that, have a different sales channel. So, there's the flour that's available for retail or for a commodity. There's the seed oil. And then when you get down to the fibers, the bast and the herd, right? So there's a lot of different commodities. But it just depends on what they're producing for. I guess secondary equipment, having a good screening process where you can sift through that and get that particulate size that your end user is going to want. And I work with the producers, processors up here, just kind of liaising my experiences and my needs, and they're really good at trying to accommodate what I need for sizes.
Sure. Ryan, you've got your hand up. I don't know if you've got a question. You're welcome to jump in.
Yeah, hey, pleasure to be discussing these exciting topics. It was really cool to hear you say that you would be interested in a herd certification program like such. And I am on the supply chain director for the U.S. Hemp Building Association, and we've been working to put that together for quite some time, but haven't settled on exactly what specs would be. And I think, like you were saying, it'd be best to have maybe different ideal specification ranges for different methods of installment, like cast in place, block, and spray. I was wondering if you think there's any other methods that need to be identified in that list. And then also, as far as a starting point on that procedure, putting that out there, what we've done is put together like the test methods and what might be tested for, and kind of the procedures for testing your herd, or having a third-party program that people could say, people that get herd from France and other countries, particularly in France, they have a program that is I'm not sure exactly what they measure or what they do, but it's like the Construction Le Chanvre. They have some certification or stamp of approval on their herd. I think they more look at like where the hemp was grown and that it's a a healthy supply chain, or it's not being used to suck up chemicals and then ground up and used for your house or something. But I'm not sure what they do as far as sizing. But how do you think that, who could play a role, or how could that program be put in place to put a stamp of approval on a herd in the United States, do you think?
Well, I think the USHBA is a good start. I think ASTM is another. We submitted recommendations through the IRC committee for ASTM certification and adaptation of hempcrete in the building codes. So I'm not sure where they are in that whole process right now. But, aside from particulate size, fiber is a concern or something that needs to be kind of assessed and, I guess, cataloged with your different styles. So you get the fiber, the outer bass fiber content from my experience, I like it less than 5%. And dust is another considerable that needs to be, with that grading system, right? So having the higher content of dust that I have in my herd, the more water consumption I'm using in the shop and in the field. So, and that does affect that mixing. It affects, our mixers, they're like bakers. We're constantly improvising based on the raw material supply we have. And a good baker can do that by feel, which a lot of my guys can right now. So, but it would be nice to have a consistency across the board where we didn't have to dial each tote of herd that we open up into, kind of just tweak our formula, so to speak, to match that grade.
What about how it's redded, Ryan?
Yeah, I was going to say, so we have like 3 factors, like you've mentioned all of them. It's the fiber percentage, dust content, and then the size, and how you measure that size aspect ratio versus what system you have, whether it's computerized or you're doing it with a picture and taking an average size spec, or what that process is. What we have written up is the ASTM procedures, which use like sieve decks. And so it could be done easily by anybody. You can do it by weight. And so it's not, you don't need a super complicated, it's like the easiest, lowest common first test procedure that most people could get their hands on. But the other 2 factors are odor and color. And those are kind of more just like check marks. You don't really, it's either, if it looks way off, there should be like a color, it should be like call it golden gray, because that sounds really nice. But there is, it shouldn't be brown, black, ideally, for the appearance of the hempcrete. But any other factors you think besides those 5, besides odor,
humidity,
appearance?
Yeah, I was going to say, Mandy, yeah, exactly. Humidity. I think most processors are probably people on this platform with a little more experience in that realm than I have. But I think, if I'm correct, things have to be dried to about 12% before they can run it through the process. So again, having dry facilities to be able to rebag that and a bagging system, that would be the only other thing I could think of is humidity, which will affect the weight, right?
Totally. Yeah, moisture, typically it's 10 to 15% is like where you want to keep it, like for when it's processed. And then the herd, the critical thing that a lot of people also don't keep in mind, a spec, is the packaging that it comes in. There's like, the industry standard 33 pound from Europe. And then we have like a 40 pound interest here in the United States for a bag. But I guess one thing, that the moisture content is heavily dictated by how it's packaged. So that's why we use plastic typically for packaging. A lot of it's moved in super sacks, and if isn't a super sack, it's susceptible to gaining moisture in transportation or where it's kept. But that is, what do you think the ideal bag size is for your operations? Maybe you take it in huge loads for the blocks, but for your casting site, what do you think the best bag weight would be?
I do like the 33 pound bags. They're easy, convenient. They're easy to move around and stuff like that on the site. So there is a certain amount of convenience with them. Being a green builder, I'm focused on waste as well. So I don't like plastic if I can avoid it. And I do a lot of my cast in place with the super sacks. But there's an issue with logistics and shipping. You can get a lot more on a pallet if it is compression sacked. So I can typically fit 3 totes worth on a pallet for shipping, if it's compression sacked into the plastic. So, for cost savings and logistics, compression sack is the way to go.
I've heard a couple of times, I'm curious about your feedback for this, is that when the herd is shipped and it's not compression packed, it then, moves and creates a lot of dust inside the packaging, or could potentially, make the product unusable for a hemp block. Is that also a concern, Dion?
Yeah, there's a bit of a settling that happens for sure. Bottom of the bag, so to speak, you get that dust that forms. So we integrate that. We'll bring our bag down to about less than an eighth left in the bag, and then we'll transfer to new bags. So we're constantly trying to blend that dusty, particulate into it. But you're right, and you'll see that settling even in a 33-pound bag.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Any other questions right now? Ken, did you have any other questions? You're on mute again.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
No, this is all very good information that I need to know as we're setting up. It's pretty easy to set up and to size right. And then I'll get set up to do all the other things that were mentioned.
Awesome. Anybody else have any questions that they want to dive into? Ryan, those were great, by the way.
I do.
Go ahead, Dion.
Yeah, Ken, I'm just curious to kind of meet everybody and talk with everybody and get to know each other a little bit better. Where are you located, Ken?
In South Dakota, eastern South Dakota.
Okay. And you're processing, I would assume?
We will start in July. Our equipment from Formation Ag is scheduled to arrive in June.
Okay. And what kind of tonnage an hour do you expect to be processing?
Reliably, probably just 1 ton. Maybe
Okay.
when we have perfect material and everything goes like a dream, 1.5 tons would be the most.
Okay. And do you have contracts? Are you contracting farmers to grow for you?
We are.
Okay. Fantastic. Yeah, I'm just curious. I'm always working because we're decentralizing our platform. We're going to have Divita block produced throughout North America. So I'm always looking at making contact with processors and helping connect the dots for affiliate platforms and having that consistency done in too. So I appreciate I appreciate you being here, Ken.
You bet.
Awesome. I know there's a couple of other processors. Shane, you've got your processing up and running here, don't you? You want to introduce what you guys are doing now?
Sure. Yeah, we are at about that rate of a 1 ton to 2 tons per hour, but conservatively 1 ton. We're in Longmont, Colorado, so we're 45 minutes north of the Denver airport. We're growing several hundred acres in Colorado this year, and we have another 12 states that we're testing our strain. It's called Blue Arrow. And so we're in the midst of testing that out now and hopefully getting AOSCA certification. But that's obviously going through the process right now. And we're going to decorticate in Colorado for the time being, but we're also setting up operations strategically around some of our farming partners and customers. And that's kind of to be determined. So I can't go too far into that just yet. But essentially, yeah, 1 ton per hour is about where we're at. Our machinery came from Eastern Europe, and we're ready to go now. It's just that we won't be able to process at a level of scale that I think the market's ready for or anticipating just yet. So we're getting there. We're all in this together. But anyway, yep. Thanks.
Brian? Oh, did I lose you?
Yeah, sorry about that. I would like to, I didn't know there was additional processing in Colorado. That's really exciting to hear, another system altogether. But I am pleasure to meet you too, Dion. I've never connected directly, but seen your posts and stuff, and awesome to follow your work and development and changing application methods. I previously was in Kentucky and worked for a supplier called Sunstrand, and most recently partnered up with a gentleman from a group that was called Basscore that's still active down in Alabama. We started building like new next gen fiber processing systems, and we just put the largest of our varieties up in Missouri. And there's some guys out there growing several hundreds of acres called Tiger Fiber, and they're putting some significant material into the market. And I know they're interested in certainly building materials and methods, and they have some awesome building opportunities down in St. Louis with economic development. They own like blocks of neighborhoods and grocery stores and stuff like that, and they have some pretty cool places to maybe build some hemp houses. And I know they're interested in doing that with their material. So maybe a group to also connect with is Tiger Fiber. But like I said, it's we just installed with them what I believe to be the largest active fiber processing system in the United States. It's a 4 ton an hour system that is pretty awesome to see after working it Sunstrand and other fiber processors and seeing lots of small lines. It's this thing can eat through some bales. So hopefully we'll be able to produce lots of material, but awesome to connect with you and the group.
Ryan, where are you seeing as far as specs and standards for the end product, as you've built system and kind of seen what that looks like? What does market look like now? And what are we seeing potential market demand if it's going to shift on specs or standards for quality of product?
Well, I tell everyone market demand is insatiable and infinite, and we could continue to replace more markets with hemp materials as we have more of it. And as it becomes more reliable, more people will be able to rely on it for their material needs. But as far as specs, like Dion was saying, there's some qualities of hemp hurd that just can't be quantified very easily. There's varieties like dual purpose, like A2 and stuff that have more of a straw-like feel to it than some of the gin moths and stuff that have a more hardier woody feel to it. And getting all those dialed in is going to be tough. So people are going to have to be like any company does, brand their material and say, we got this variety and we process it this way, and we can consistently do that to this many acres. And people will have their own, reputations as companies, as processors do. But I think that like I said, I'm on the board of the USHBA trying to push forward just that agenda. Right now we're putting out a testing code, like a standard procedure for doing these tests. So hopefully we can get that standard procedure to universities and labs so that herd producers could send a 1 pound sample instead of to everyone. They could send one to one of these labs and they could get the stamp of approval that says, as long as the rest of their herd looks like that herd that they sent,
Is this similar to like a checkoff program? Like wool is ran through a similar checkoff program to get a grade or a quality?
Yeah, I think it'll take a lot longer for that type of that's what the USDA is working on. And we are setting up we're working on those programs with the USDA as well. That's more on fiber. They're more focused on fiber. There's not as much interest from these kind of commodity market peoples on herd that I've seen yet, because there's not a specific market, and herd's used in so many markets like animal bedding and stuff like that. But that is, something we got to self-regulate ourselves to hopefully push the market to be more reliable. But that is hopefully on its way. But yeah, we hope to just put out that testing method and then let the market say what cast in place and block and spray ideal ranges are. And then we can just give that test out for free, or, to these places. And when they charge whatever they charge for a test, hopefully like $10, $20 or something like that. And then you can get a sticker or something that says
data is king. Data is king. Right.
Sure.
That'll really help our industry. If the more we're able to collect and pull together the consistent data on these different fibers, I'd be interested in collaborating and looking into something like this, especially as we're doing national fiber trials, right? And wanting to see at each phase what the herd and fiber ratios are and content is across the nation, where it changes, where we're getting best results with different genetics. I think it feeds into what you just said. And so I'd love to look at where we can collaborate on data for that also.
Yeah, I'd be happy to help on that too. I did one of those just last year. We collected crops from several states and I hand processed them all here down in Southern Colorado and did all that weighing out fiber versus herd. I don't know who you're going to have to do the hand processing of stocks, but that's a fun job. But yeah, no, all this sounds excellent. Definitely critical.
Awesome. Dion, do you have anything you want to add to that? And thanks, Ryan, by the way.
Yeah, I should just add that we're kind of looking at either builders or processors for our affiliate platform. Ideally we want to have production very close to their source. So it's something that, I think processors should look at as a value add to their supply chain. So, like I say, it all depends on end result and sales. That's the bottom line with things. If the consumer is going to demand it, we're going to be able to produce it. So want to keep that communication line open and just say we're here to explore options with you guys.
Danny, do you want to talk about what you guys are doing? You guys also have some processing under your belt, is that right?
Yeah, we're kind of next stage processing though, with tech that is kind of an add-on to pretty much any line out there. Most of you are familiar with the resonance revive technology that adds to a lot of the lines that are already kind of predetermined and what they're producing out there. But if you're micronizing, I mean, it's that versus a hammer mill, instead of beating everything to death and possibly degrading the quality. I mean, it works well in some applications that this technology can be really effective. It's just really getting implemented on those industrial scales and more partnerships in place to really get that refined. But we absolutely do. And we're looking forward to talking about it more with different processors. And I know Eric's already talking to Ken, and we're working to get that tech more established in the industry.
Awesome. Is anybody else on here? I see too, Bill, you're on here. I don't know if you have anything you'd like to comment or any questions that I know Bill's very involved with ASTM and has been in the space on the technical side, so always has some good feedback. But if anybody else has any other comments or questions for anybody that's on, please feel free. This is a nice small group, so it opens up for conversation. Santiago, do you have anything you want? Oh, good. Gary's. Hi.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Santiago Lesica. I'm from Argentina, the south of the continent. Last week, my partner, Juana Jenny, has been with you, Mandy. Thanks for that. Mm-hmm. She has been attending the NOCO in the south part of the continent. Hemp is really new, and it's not fully available due to legal issues. We are starting our project in Uruguay. And I was just thinking while you were talking, thanks for all the things that you are saying, what will be the first step in order to develop hempcrete? Or what do you think how it's gonna be the way that we can start building a hemp business in a new business, in a new area?
Great question, Dion.
It takes time and patience and dedication. There's so many moving parts that almost have to grow together. No farmer is going to plant seeds unless he's got a sale for his raw material. No processor is going to build a processor unless he's got material to move through the processor. And no industry is going to get started unless we have both of those. So, I think it's working with the full chain to develop it simultaneously. So having a farmer that's willing to, take some risks and plant some seeds, and a processor that's going to say, hey, we want to go small scale. We want to just get our feet wet and get familiar with the plant and what the needs are in processing. And then, of course, that proof of concept for end result, having, somebody that wants to build a hemp house. You got to have that investor, if you will, is really what it boils down to. So I think that industry almost has to grow together, make friends with your farmer, make friends with your builders, and talk about, all the many benefits that hempcrete has. It's very attractive. It sells itself. When people see all the things that hempcrete can do and how it performs and interacts with us, it's a no-brainer. It's just a matter of getting that cost down through, precast elements rather than cast in place, which can be very time-consuming and labor-intensive. It's about advancing all aspects of the industry so we can compete with other industries that have had hundreds of years to develop. So there's patience. It's it's not I think fiber is the breadbasket of the industry. There's been kind of a gold rush in the CBD market and even the cannabis market, but when we see the value of what the fiber can do to our daily lives, I think that's really going to be the bread and butter of our industry.
I also want to say, I'm going to give a little plug right here. Feel free to get involved, or I encourage people to get involved with GHA. I'm really impressed right now as a perfect example that there's 4 or 5 different processors or opportunities to process here that give different aspects or have different end goals or markets that they're targeting, from biocomposites to construction and building materials or the textile industry. But I the whole reason we built this is so that you guys can rub shoulders with people doing things like what you're doing, or to help fill these gaps and connect people. And so, Santiago, I'm happy to make some connections. I'm happy to connect you with people that are looking to expand outside of the US, especially in a new market where we do have viable opportunities. There is definitely, like Dion said, a lot to figure out, even down to the genetic of what we're going to produce there and what that end market, exports or processing is going to look like. But there are a lot of people that are part of GHA who can do this or are confident that they, have pieces of this supply chain to be able to expand. And so, yeah, I definitely encourage you guys to, and anybody here on the call, please feel free to share your contact information. If you want to reach out, do that. But Bill, I see you have a question as well.
Hi. It was great seeing you at NOCO.
Same.
The band didn't get us to a two-step. They were way too loud. But anyway.
That's true. And I went to bed at like 8 o'clock that day, I'll be honest.
Well, you covered a lot of ground. And I was delighted at NOCO, and I was kind of on a mission that I think is relevant to regardless of what you want to do with hemp. I went booth to booth and I asked a question: what does legitimization mean to you? Legalization was one step, and that was a big one. That was to get the right to make products. Now we have to make products and legitimize hemp in the eyes and minds of people who aren't hemp supporters. So, and it was the same thing with grant writers and everything else. Our challenge is to drop hemp from our minds entirely and not even think about it. What market or what grantor are you trying to reach, and what do they want to see is the only thing that matters, whether you're writing a grant or you're trying to tap into a market. So take ASTM, for example. If you want to be a fiber, or you want to be an insulation, or a structural material, what does that look like? Get hemp out of your mind. And if you want to be an insulation, what does that mean? What did every insulation manufacturer in the country have to do to be recognized as an insulation? And that's what everybody needs to focus on and get hemp out of their minds and look at what penetrating a market looks like generically in the minds who specify the materials. Because until the people who buy materials and specify those materials are convinced that we meet all rules, regs, specs, and do so with higher performance at a lower price, we're not going to get mass adoption in any markets. Now, I wanted to highlight, and Jason from Best in Canada wasn't there. I was really looking forward to meet him because he's my poster child right now of what penetrating a market through legitimization means looks like. They walked into CO9 ASTM, which is all concrete products, threw their material on the table and said, we're concrete reinforcement.
Right.
And they were dealt with that way, they were tested that way, and they proved that their material works better per ASTM testing of the CO9 section, better than other available materials. The word hemp never came up.
Well, and I think eventually I have a love-hate relationship with that statement, right? Because I'm also passionate about the whole picture that hemp provides, but I'm with you. There's still this stigma or this some of the industry has missold the capabilities of hemp as well, right? But I think that, again, building material code is building material code. And as long as we meet those specs, we're able to move product in.
Every material.
Right. Okay. Now talk to me about time frame at which, because some of the specs or standards, right, will potentially change through ASTM. Is that what I hear, because of the additional quality that hemp has as a hemp insulation versus insulation? What's time frame for that to happen?
Laboratory test that hasn't been done.
Gotcha.
Okay, that's the first step. See what the result is. Scientific method is the process of getting it done wrong out of the way. Test the mix. If you don't like the number, change the mix and try again and try again. Now, there is a BAT product that's been approved. It passed ASTM C5108. It's approved as insulation. It has a certified R value. That's the Hemp Textures bat product.
Right.
However, they can only meet code. They can't beat code because it's a bat. So you're really limited the performance you can get out of a bat type insulation. Bats are never used in high performance houses because
we are going to see new products come on board, right? That are not that we don't have existing already.
Exactly. I mean, and so the performance of a building, that's building science, that's ASTM E06. I'm on that committee too, and that's final performance. And so C16 insulation is just the performance of the insulation in isolation. And then E06 is the performance of the building at the completion of construction, which is a whole different matter. And that's how we find out bats don't work very well. Because if you project the R value on the bat and then you analyze the energy consumption post-construction, you didn't achieve anywhere near what the rating on that bat says. And that's installation quality more than anything else. But still, the major point here is the people who buy products have to be convinced based on price and performance. Mm-hmm. And once we can do that, we don't have to mention it's hemp anymore. And we become legitimate in the eyes of the industries we target. Textile is another big one, very problematic with fiber right now. D13 is all natural synthetic fibers, and hemp can't go there because no one yet produces a hemp fiber that meets the specs of a fiber. If there's a molecule of lignin on that fiber, it's not a fiber. So this is a real challenge for our industry, is to know where we have to go to be successful. And then we can talk about supply chains and value chains and how to meet that specification. But you got to start with what you have to be to get someone in an industry to buy your product first, and then work back. And it's the same thing with grants. I had some great meetings with some people writing grants. You know, you got to get out of your mind where you want to go and create an outline of what the grantor wants to see. And They give you line by line what the scoring criterion is. And you create a generic representation of the grant's goals, mission, metrics. And then you come back and fill in with what you're doing. And it's the same for any material product. You can easily define what you must do to get the money, to get the purchase, to get the grant, and then fill it in.
Maybe sometime, Bill, we do a Q&A and let's talk about some of this, about some of the tools that might be available that you're aware of, because I think the topics come up a lot and I would be awesome to be able to present, here's how and where we go to find some of this information. I don't know if you'd be open to doing that with us sometime.
Yeah, I'm collecting data at the end of this after my walk around the floor of asking everybody the legitimate. Morris said, okay, we got a deal next year.
Oh, we lost you.
Morris booked a section on legitimization next year.
Awesome.
So I'm working on creating that platform of information that we can share. And so, collecting and working with everybody in the industry now to figure out the elements of legitimization so we can present it as a step-by-step process next year.
Right on. Dion, do you have anything you want to add? There's a few questions I want to get to that are here in the comments. Brooks asked a couple, and then I saw Ron asked a couple.
Bill, thanks for that. I think too, there's an element that maybe is overlooked there. Price and performance does definitely factor in. Performance predominantly. The conscious consumer is concerned about what their materials are made out of. So the carbon footprint put into that does factor in as well.
I would agree, especially as we're seeing more of a consumer demand, right? We're seeing such a shift from consumers and so many people being affected by poor quality materials. You know, we have a few members that were very impacted. So, okay. So Brooke, I don't know if you want to ask your question. I'm happy to turn it over for you. I'm happy to ask it for you if you'd like. Go ahead. Okay. So have you ever used the cannabinoid hemp herd? This is a really good question. Something that comes up a lot is, using the waste material from hemp or cannabis. Dion?
Sorry? No, I didn't know that was directed at me.
That's okay. Brooke's wondering if you've ever used cannabinoid, fiber or stalks for your product, and if not, or if so, why? And
yes, I have. Yeah. The big thing with cannabinoid type stock is it's not grown for size, it's grown for the bushiness. So you're going to get a lot of smaller fibers. You're not going to get the long strain fiber for decortication. But there are advantages. It's a very similar cell structure to the hemp plant. It's cannabis. So cannabis is cannabis. So, I mean, yeah, you could use it, but you're not going to get a lot of it. It would be probably a waste of, I guess you're not going to get a lot of that real stocky, woody core of the plant. But the cellular structure is very similar. I have used some in R&D and it's performed very well.
Okay, I'm going to make a comment. I know there's a couple of you on here. Melissa Baldwin and Formation Ag have posted a couple of different times, and I'm curious on, some of you, Ryan and Shane, through your processing equipment, the concern for decortication on the CBD crop because of where the node is or the branch is, and it affecting the cleanliness or the quality of the hurd or decorticated material. What is something you guys have heard? Is that the same with your equipment? Does it matter that it's the CBD versus the grown for fiber production?
Yeah, sure. Ryan Doherty here. I would say I've ran lots of CBD and cannabis varieties, like Dion was saying. When you're planting for a high floral capacity, you're getting like 5,000 to 7,000 plants an acre. When you're planting for fiber, you're planting 50 pounds an acre and getting more like 1 million plants. And so the biomass, it doesn't make economic sense to collect these hard stocks. Also, in addition to that, when people dry their flower, often on the branches, that act of pulling out like the wet stalk and then bringing it somewhere dry and drying the hurd and fiber together like that and not leaving it in the field to have any retting action, like solidifies the fiber to the hurd. And so most, applications you want to use the stalk for requires the separation of the hurd and fiber. There are some people that, claim they have like liquid decorticate, ways to dissolve all the material. Even the dissolution processes that we were looking to work with, you still need to separate the fiber from the hurd as they're made up of very different components. And then again, some people have technologies that can just mill the crap out of it really fast, but you have so much, like you're saying, the nodes or lateral branching, that there's so many like little tiny stalks that aren't even really hurd and fiber. It's almost just like a branch, like a stick. And so it's not much material in there and they kind of just turn to dust. So that is, I wouldn't advise building a business plan, but that all said, there is dual purpose, applications that they have genetic varieties that have, more of a single stock that has one big, ball on the top. That's how much most acres in like the Netherlands, where they are really struggling to find more acres. We're blessed here with all of our open land, but in some places where, they have to make every acre really count, like companies like Dunagro grow dual purpose with a dual purpose header harvester, and they get grain, floral material and fiber and are able to market and brand all of it. But they've been at it for a lot longer and had the opportunity to really hone those processes in. So it's not unfeasible, but when grown for true max floral production, that material is not very usable.
Yeah. I was going to also add to that, Ryan. Thanks for that. I was also going to add to a lot of CBD or cannabinoids are pulled pre-seed development, which doesn't give that stock full maturity. So it just depends on the farmer practices and what they're extracting for. But I find typically CBD strains or varieties that have been grown specifically for CBD have more of a grassier core rather than a woody core.
Okay, so I'm going to ask a specific question. I want to know if your processing is affected. Like, is the quality of my end product, regardless of how much of it you get, say I bring you 1 million pounds of biomass, will that end product decorticate the same, no matter if it's CBD or fiber, as far as quality or separating those nodes, Ryan?
Oh, no, I'd say it won't all be the same. I mean, there's been companies that have set up fiber processing that have grown tricrops and have ran into those issues. There are different, particularly the biggest type of processing on the market right now is roller breaker systems. That's like your Canna systems, your Fiber Track 660. They're all using roller breakers, which almost require a round bale because you need the stalks material to be oriented, or you have to harvest it like really old style, like in bundles, to keep it all linear or oriented, because you have to feed it into a pretty small aperture to where the material is actually getting processed, and you're relying on that crushing action. So there's people pioneering different methods so that the material can be moved a lot quicker, and different types of liberation or decortication. But right now we're relying on those types of systems. You're relying on mechanical, just crushing action, which especially with random oriented CBD stocks will not work out. But yeah, that's it's definitely different outputs for sure.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, that's what I was curious about. I hope that helped, Brooke. Did that answer some questions? Okay. Awesome. Dion, anything you want to add to that? Any other questions that have come up?
No, it's more of a thank you to everybody doing the good work you're doing. The processors, I wouldn't have, I guess, the end product if you guys weren't doing what you're doing. So thank you for working with us to dial it in and have that grading system somewhat established. And I think it's great to meet some of you on this platform.
Awesome. Kayla, I saw your mic came off, and then I wanted to close off with just Ron's last question. Go ahead.
Yeah, I know. I just wanted to say thank you to everybody. A big part of what we do here at Global Hemp Association is help close those gaps in the supply chain. So whether you're looking to source seed, you're looking to grow your business, you're looking to connect with other suppliers or collaborate, or even looking for where your end product is going to go. That's a big part of what we do here. So make sure you take advantage of your membership benefits. We're here to help you grow your business. And I just don't want any of you to forget that. So that was all I wanted to say. I've been listening in most of the day. I'm still recovering from NOCO. Somehow it's Wednesday and I'm still not recovered. As you can hear, I've just got my voice back, but thank you so much for everybody that came and gave me a hug at NOCO. It was wonderful to see you. And thanks for being here today. But yeah.
I have to give a shout out to Corbett's Technology, has been mentioned a couple of times on here. They did win the Best Tech Award for the industry, which was pretty cool. So I have to give them a shout out at NOCO. We did some awesome awards. But Ron, I don't know if I saw you're still on, if you want to kind of jump into your question about tools, any tools for education and information. Dion, do you have any? Go ahead, Ron.
Sure.
Hi, see you.
Sure. Since my background is marketing and kind of making things accessible to the public, I'm really interested in making sure that trying to get hemp to the masses where they understand the value of it. So I'm just curious. I've seen a lot of tools and there's just a lot, and I'm trying to get recommendations on if there are any just good tools to communicate people in layman's terms.
Benefits of hemp.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, Ron, there's some great books out there about hemp construction. There's some old school books out there. The Emperor Wears No Clothes. There's some real classics. Hemp's been around for a long time. So there are a lot of great books and resources, to expand horizons and outlooks on hemp. As far as the hemp building, Chris Magwood's got a great one up here in Canada, Building with Hemp. Alex PF has the Hempcrete Handbook, I believe it is, out of the UK. Steve Allen's got some great literature, and those are all they're staples in my library. So there are my first house is in the centerfold of Magwood's books, so I like to pull that one out. But yeah, there's some great literature. Hemp's, the more people explore it, the more they see that this is not just a hippie plant. This is real industry.
Okay, so I agree. Emperor's Wears No Clothes is a great book. I also this last week, I just bought this book, H is for Hemp, from Marin Krings. It's really, really good. Obviously, you see it's really thick. It's printed on hemp paper, which is really cool. Makes it exciting, but this is another really good one, Ron, that I just picked up. And then tomorrow, I have to give a real quick, we're selling, first off, another shout out to Ron, who helped us with some of our branding, Moving Hemp Forward t-shirts. If you guys are looking for t-shirts, they're made out of hemp. It helps to, contribute to what we're doing and really push what we're doing forward. together. We're moving hemp forward together. And then tomorrow at 12 o'clock Mountain Time, the Ohio FFA group, this is really cool because last year it brought tears to my eyes and many other people on the call. But tomorrow, the Ohio FFA girls, there's 5 of them, I think, last year competed, and they were the only group out of the nation that picked hemp to present. They did really well. They went to nationals. This year, the topic is carbon sequestration, and they were blown away at where hemp impacted carbon and carbon farming. And so they're going to come in and present tomorrow at noon Mountain Time. And every time they hear feedback or get feedback before they go to nationals, they get a point up on their presentations. And so we're going to do this for them a couple of times, but this is a perfect example of getting the younger generation and more people involved in hemp and what we're doing to move the industry forward together. And so I invite you guys to come back tomorrow also if you'd like, or share it. But they just called me yesterday and were like, I know it's last minute. Can we please present to you guys? And so I'd love to have you guys on and come back. And Dion, is there anything we can do for you? What is it that we as a collective group can really do to move your company forward that maybe someone on this call has a connection or tools for you?
I think just sharing the successes of Divita as it grows. You know, we've got some projects down in the US and in Canada, and we're going for all the certifications through ASTM. So it's about, you know, just sharing that option that's on the table. You know, it's not the perfect medium for hempcrete building, but it's definitely the perfect one for a lot of projects. So I love all the different modalities and all the different mediums that the hemp builders are using. There's a time and a place for everything, and precast is the solution for a lot of you know, very specific issues, especially with commercial construction. So
I had somebody reach out to me yesterday, send me an email or day before yesterday looking for precast walls. They sent some pictures. I'd love if anybody's interested in this project. I assume it's going to be a fairly large one. I've got another one that somebody's looking for 100,000 envelopes a month. They need the large like DHL envelopes out of tagboard. They want to move to hemp products. And so I get these calls often. This is, you know, part of what we've set up. So Dion, I'll send over this contact. And then again, anybody else on the call that you guys have, you know, ways that we can potentially help these buyers and grow our network. I'm all about it.
Fantastic.
Cool. Okay. Well, thank you guys. Please join and support GHA. Let us know if you're looking for a t-shirt. They're really awesome t-shirts. And Danny, I will be in touch because we've got like the event we talked about. I've got it pretty much ready to go. We've got location and stuff figured out as far as country. And so
exciting. Great.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, you guys. Well, thank you very, very much. Let us know if you need anything. And yeah, don't hesitate to reach out to Kayla, Joanne, or I. Thank you.
Thank you, Mandy.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Great discussion.
Great. Thank you very, very much.